You have a cool relationship with the Lord that you kind of see it in your writing, but it's not like over the top or anything. How does following Christ impact your writing?
Yeah, I mean, certainly it forms my whole worldview. My faith is important, and hopefully, flavors everything that I write. Certainly, I try to embody both in terms of how I write and how I live my life. Try to embody generosity and compassion and these different characteristics that we find of Jesus in Scripture. The thing that I've tried to do with writing is not to be necessarily overt and explicit about my faith, but at the same time not
Mm-hmm.
shy away from it. And the reason for that is because I'm not trying to prove anything or make a certain point or anything. I just want my art to be judged as art, and I don't want people. Everybody knows that story about you know this girl or guy who gets up and sings for their church choir, and it's just awful. But they're singing about God, and everybody comes up to them and tells them what a great job they did. I've been in circumstances like that, and I don't like this weird dichotomy we have between faith and culture, which is a new thing, historically. I think that faith is supposed to influence culture, and culture is supposed to have an impact on what we believe, how it actually interacts with the world. And so, first and foremost, whether somebody is a Christian or not, or shares my worldview, I want my art to hopefully touch them in some way, and I want them to ultimately be able to connect that with the same hope that I have. But that initial judgment call, I want it to be on the face value of the art. In other words, I want to be able to prove that I have something to say by virtue of what I'm saying, not what the subject is.
Mm-hmm.
So that if it's bad, people will go, this was just bad, even if it's about Jesus or whatever. And if it's good, it's good. And I love what Madeline L'Engle says in her book, Walking on Water. She says, there's no such thing as Christian art. There's good art and there's bad art. And
Right.
good art is inherently Christian because it embodies the creative nature of the creator. And so if
Right.
you create good art, it will be Christian, whether you're a believer or not. And I love that idea.
Yeah, that's great. One of the big things you talk about in building a platform is kind of serving other people, going out of your way to help others. And I thought that was really interesting because you think building a platform, I need to be pointing to me so I can, people pay attention to me. But you almost do the opposite. Where did you come up with that idea, and how has that played out for you?
Well, I don't know that I came up with it. I think that anybody who has influence and it's not short-lived, they understand that a platform is people. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
stage. It's not a career. It's not a blog. It's people who are giving you their trust and attention for you to communicate whatever it is you have to say. So, if you whittle, it's people coming to your shop and
Mm-hmm.
finding your little statues or whatever. If you're a musician, it's people coming to your conferences or concerts. I'm sorry, and paying money to see you play. I think a great example of that is I listened to this band in college, and this small little punk band, and we went and saw them one night, and there were maybe 200 or 300 people at the show, pretty small deal. But everybody there was a fan, like a hardcore fan. And on the last song, like their number one hit that everybody knew, during their encore, they asked everybody to come up on stage with them. And they played this song. And it got so crazy, people were moving around, running into each other, that eventually, like, the band got pushed off the stage. And, like, the band's no longer playing, everybody's jumping on this stage, screaming the words to this song. I think that a really great platform is like that. You create art for the sake of touching people, not for the sake of you being elevated.
Right.
And if there comes a point when the art when the art brings the audience on stage and actually pushes you off, and it is still sustained, then that's real art.
Wow.
And that's not about you building an audience around your personality. So that's what I'm interested in doing. I'm interested in leaving an impact on the world, and hopefully, and I hope I don't come across as disingenuous, somebody will push me off the stage, and people will keep singing my songs. People will keep reading those words. And if you look at authors and artists and people who have left a legacy in the world, I think you see that. They're gone, and their art remains. I think that's the type of life that I hope to live creatively and in every aspect of my life.
Cool. All right, so last question. Our site we're doing here is called Live Fully, and just however you want to answer this, what would you say to those who are trying to figure out what it means to live fully, and kind of like what you were saying earlier, to just live, but they're not really sure what their first step should be? What would you say?
I would say give your life away. I think that the paradox of life is that if you try to keep your life, you lose it, and if you give it away, you find it. And I found that to be true. I have traveled a lot, and I work for a mission organization, and I've been involved in some local homeless outreach. And I'm a pretty self-absorbed person, and I find that I'm never satisfied when I'm constantly pursuing my own satisfaction. And life started to get interesting for me when I started giving away as much as I possibly could. When I met this group of homeless people in downtown Nashville and found out that they were sleeping on the streets, they didn't have any blankets, and I had 15 blankets at home that I wasn't using. And so when I started taking all of the blankets from my house and giving them to people who didn't have any, something started to happen in me that had never happened before. There was this bubbling up of excitement and passion, and I realized that as I stopped paying attention to me and started focusing on others, how much more fulfilling life was. And doing that without paying attention to your own personal health and whatnot can be unhealthy. You can do anything to an extreme, but I found that if you want to live a full life and you don't know where to begin, start with other people. Start with listening, with finding ways to serve in some small way. And as you make stuff not about you, I think you kind of brush up against this paradox, which is that life is about other people. It's meant to be lived in community. And as you find ways to make your life about others, I think you find the most satisfaction from it.